Hi, Mr. Washington here. We're going to go over how to factor today. So let's jump right into it. So what we want to do, we're going to use the box method for factoring today. The first thing we want to check to see and make sure that we can factor out a GCF. If we look at 14x squared minus 12x minus 2, we see that we can divide both of those by 2. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to divide both of those by 2, drawing our upside down division. 14x squared divided by 2 is 7x squared. Negative 12x divided by 2 is negative 6x. And negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. We see here in the next step that we're going to put the squared term in the top left box. We're going to put the constant term in the bottom right hand box. And if we know anything about our patterns, we said the two diagonals will always multiply to give us the same thing. So that's going to help us find the other two boxes of our boxes. So what can we multiply to get negative 7x squared? And those same two numbers have to add to give us negative 6x. Think about it for a second. You should realize that 7 and 1 is probably the two numbers we're going to use. The 7 needs to be negative here since we want them to add up to give us negative 6x. And then we put those in the boxes. It doesn't matter where we put those in the boxes. We could switch the negative 7 and the 1. That would be okay as well. And now we're going to divide each row by the biggest thing we can divide each row by. So we see here the first row was divided by 7x, and the second row was divided by 1x, since 1x and 1 can only be divided by 1. And then we're going to do each column. So 7x squared and 1x can be divided by an x, and negative 7x and negative 1 can only be divided by a negative 1. So therefore we have factored this. Factoring is just this idea of unmultiplying. So we've taken something that was multiplied together and we have completely broken that apart into its factors. 2 times 7x plus 1 times x minus 1 would be our three factors in that case. Let's look at another example. The other example here, 9x squared minus 6x minus 15. We're going to work that one out. We can divide by 3. We get 3x squared minus 2x minus 5 when we divide all of those by 3. And then we put the squared term in the top left. We put the constant term in the bottom right. So we got 3x squared in the top left and negative 5 in the bottom right of our box. Then we know the diagonals have to multiply to give us the same thing, so we're going to multiply the 3x squared and the negative 5, so we get negative 15x squared, and it always has to add up to give me the middle number, the negative 2x right here. So those two numbers in this case, if we think about those two numbers, what can we multiply to get negative 15? The factors of 15 are 1 and 5, and 3 and 5. 3 and 5 would be the right combination here, since those two numbers could add or subtract to give me negative 2, and the 5 would have to be negative in this case. So we put those two in the box, and then we look at each row and each column to see what we can divide by. We can divide the first row by an x. 3x squared and negative 5x can be divided by x. And then 3x and negative 5, we can only divide that by 1. 3x squared and 3x, we could divide that by a 3x. And negative 5x and negative 5, we can divide that by a negative 5. So we get our factored version. The GCF goes outside, so the 3 outside. And then x plus 1 times 3x minus 5 would be our factored form. It doesn't matter what order we put the factors in. The x plus 1 and the 3x minus 5 could be switched. You try some of these others and then see if you can come up with the right answers. If you have any questions, please let me know.